Welcome. This is Stories from Los Angeles, hosted by Eric Ramos. Welcome, everybody. My name is Eric Ramos, and I'm back here again. This time around, I have Ariana Rodriguez, and I like to pronounce the R every now and then whenever I can. But she is a fashion design director at a fashion manufacturing company, right?
Yes, exactly.
So would you like to tell everybody a little bit about yourself? I'd like to start a little bit with what is your background as far as like where did you grow up around LA? Because this is an LA lifestyle podcast. As you can see, we're both here in downtown LA.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the 101 freeway behind us. And so, what's your story?
I actually grew up in the city of Whittier, so I've lived there my whole life. I grew up pretty much dealing already with the industry, but more at home based. My mother would actually make wedding dresses, so I kind of fell into already in that craft. So it wasn't the idea that I wanted to actually be a designer. It was more something that was just already there, because originally I actually wanted to be a pediatrician growing up, which is completely the opposite.
Really?
Yeah. And just as I started getting older, I started adapting more into the fashion industry, seeing my mom sewing every night, helping her with any last minute adjustments at home since she would sew at home. And as I started getting older, I started making my own clothes, and I started realizing that it was more of a direction I wanted to go to, since I always liked doing art. I used to do murals and just paint every day. So I started adapting that and kind of mixing both of them in, and decided to go into fashion school. By the time I was in high school, then I decided that I wanted to get into the fashion industry.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you can thank your mom for basically teaching you like the free at home lessons.
Yes, exactly.
That's nice.
Yes.
Would you say you're very close to your mom because of that? Is your dad in fashion?
No, my dad's not in fashion. My dad was more into, he worked for Amtrak. So he was actually more working the night shift. So most of the time I was with my mom, she would do late nights, sewing all night long, doing big weddings or prom dresses in general. So yes, we are closer because of that. So we would always work on projects, or if I had projects, she would help me out too.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So at what age did you start putting together your first piece?
I would say maybe around 15. I would start drawing up my dresses, and I would actually have my mom make them, and then little by little, when she wouldn't have time, I would start cutting things up, hot gluing stuff, or just hopping on the machine and seeing how things would work out. And then I started buying like patterns from the store and started utilizing them to be able to make dresses. So by the time I actually went to college, I actually had that knowledge, and it was easier for me just to jump into it and start sewing myself.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I already know, but you went to FITM in downtown LA, which I also went to FITM. And it's funny because you and I used to work together. And that was the thing that we both realized very early on, that, holy crap, we went to the same college.
Exactly.
And FITM, for those who don't know, is the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandise.
Yes.
And you went there, what years?
I went in 2006, and then I took a break because I got pregnant. And then I came back and then finished, it was winter of 2010.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Your story is more unique because a lot of people have like they just go to college, they graduate, and then they go to school. But then you had a little blessing along the way.
Yes.
That basically you needed to put your whole attention and, of course, your energy into. So how long was the break?
I would say about 1.5 years, but in between I was still going to FITM and actually doing workshops, because they wanted me to continue so I wouldn't forget, any of the information. So I would go back and I would do drawing workshops, sewing workshops in between while he was still like a newborn. So I would take 2 days out of the week, go back to school, so I can just keep it going.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So having a kid never affected your passion.
No.
Because I think a lot of people like are very afraid of that. A lot of people are just like, oh, kids. I mean, I'm a little afraid of that. Not gonna lie. To me, sometimes I feel like me balancing a child. I think I'm still like a child a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's good to have that inner child. You need that inner child.
yeah. Well, I think now that I'm getting like a little bit more, call it a little bit more experience in my career, I feel like now I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable now to have kids. But the fact that you already had that feat that most people take forever to take on, you already took on it, and that's really awesome. You know, when you came back to work, back to school, did you just complete it right away?
Yes, I did. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, he did mess up a few of my projects before finals, so it was a little tough because by the time I graduated, I think he was about a year and a half or two, I believe that, like 2.
Okay, so like the terrible twos were starting to
start. Yeah, writing on my textbooks. I would be cutting fabric and I had them ready to be sewn. He would pop up from underneath the table to try to scare me and play hide and seek, and he'll spill a drink all over. It was actually champurrado all over. It was like 40 pieces I had just cut, and I started to cry, but I'm like, there's nothing I can do just to redo it again. And it's not his fault. I mean, he's a child.
You're very patient in that sense.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know what champurrado is, champurrado is basically a hot Mexican drink with, what is it? Harina?
It's no, actually, it's like maseca. You actually put maseca on
So
it.
it's just like.
Well, everybody makes it differently, so I wouldn't know. I mean, it's like hot chocolate with a little bit of maseca to make it thicker.
And for those of you who don't know, maseca is.
And it has cornstarch too.
Basically corn, a corn-based drink. Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to you. Back to you. Okay, so how was your college experience? Because your ethnicity is Mexican?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you identify as Mexican, or do you identify more as an American?
No, more Mexican. I'm more Mexican than anything, I would say.
Yeah. How do you think that LA, like living in LA, has like your Mexican experience been nowadays? With everything going on in the world.
I think nowadays it's more acceptable. When I was in college, I was probably, out of my classes, there would be like only 2 Hispanic people in there. Everybody else was abroad. So it was a little tougher to actually be more. So when I would be more into my culture, people would kind of look at you like, what is that? It wasn't as common as it is now. Like now you have people adapting to different cultures, which is really beautiful. But back in the day, I think it was a little tougher in that situation.
Like to make connections, friends?
Yeah.
You had a tougher time? Cool. I mean, not cool, but at the same time.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was, again, you would just, everybody would hang out, I would say, in their own little groups. Maybe it was like 2, 3 friends. That's how it was. So.
Yeah. And what was so would you say your FITM experience was positive as far as, because you came in with a background already from your family? What did FITM make you like understand things a little bit more like structured?
I would say so, because again, I was used to doing one-offs. And there, I mean, I actually learned how to actually get prepared for a manufacturing world. Say if I mess up, I have the pattern there. Growing up, it was more, I made the pattern on the fabric and I just cut it up. If I mess it up, oh well, here I go again, to do it again. And this was more of learning how to actually make a pattern from scratch, keeping it, and then if you mess up, you already have the pattern again that you can redo it without a problem.
Right, like in a more global scale.
Correct.
Your skills can be applied.
If you want to manufacture it, it's there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because I think my experience with FITM was also, I would say it was pleasant. I think it taught me, like you said, we had that creative background.
Yes.
But then kind of polished it, and like this is how you will apply it in the real world, which I kind of appreciated.
Yeah.
And we're not being paid by FITM to give this positive feedback. Right? No, it was actually like very organic as artists. Because I think a lot of people want to go into fashion, but don't realize how difficult it is.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. I do have a lot of friends that graduated the same year as me, and they're actually in a whole different field, because you really do have to be passionate about it, because it is a tough industry. It's a tough industry to be able to even get a job, and if you don't actually have the patience for it, then you won't last.
Right. You need to have skill and patience.
Correct.
Which are two very difficult things for a lot of people, which I'm glad you have, because as design director for, I mean, it is a multi-million-dollar company. You guys have big clients, like plug a little bit, just like Yamava Casino, right,
Correct,
in
yeah.
San Bernardino.
Mhm.
Which, if you guys don't know, Yamava Casino, it's one of the big SoCal casinos, like Native American
Yeah.
casinos, and they just had a multi-million-dollar rebranding in the last recent years.
Yes,
And
correct.
I think you and I actually were able to work on a project together on that
Yes,
one.
we
We
did.
made patterns for, and so you kind of customized a lot of day-to-day work, like more of the corporate side of fashion, right?
Yes.
So,
Exactly.
what are some of the like projects that you've really enjoyed in your career with where you're currently at?
I would say um, probably one of the funnest was when I first started. We did have a chef that wanted to create a superhero. That was when I first started working there. It was a superhero because what he did healthy eating for kids. So he made up a character, and we had to make that character come to life. And we actually did the costume for that character, which he was like a superhero chef. And he pretty much went to different countries to try to teach kids about nutrition. I think the casino industry is creative in the sense of um, just coming up with the different types of outfits that casinos wear depending on their brand.
There's more like creative freedom, right?
Yes, correct. There's more creative freedom in that sense, other than just a typical uniform, like for a restaurant, which is more basic.
Structured.
Yes.
This is what we do. Boom, give us
The only thing
what
you can
we
play
need.
around is with color combinations. And now with all the technology, sublimation, you're able to actually brand more uniforms in that sense, I would say.
Right, custom graphics. And so, memorable projects to me, it's like, I know like in life, some people it's like, how do you find passion or how do you find that inspiration? The fact that these projects, do you ever feel like a lack of inspiration, like when there's a new project that comes to you?
Yes, I actually do. There's times that really that, not that I freak out, I just wonder, okay, let me take a couple steps back. Let me see how I can actually find an inspiration. Like I said, I'll probably either listen to music, because sometimes some projects will come quick. I'm like, okay, I already know the idea. I know what I'm going to do. Some projects, it really takes time to actually be able to, come up with ideas to be able to tackle on what the customer wants actually.
Oh, wow,
yeah.
wow. So you do hit like a brick wall every now
Yeah,
and then.
every now and then, yes, it happens.
How long when did you get your first like fashion designer job?
I'm trying to step back. My first designer job was actually an internship.
An internship?
Yes.
Was this during college or after?
It was actually right after.
Right after
Yes.
college?
Was
it paid?
No.
Oh.
So, but it was actually a really cool place to actually intern, because it was a vintage recreation business. It was a very small shop in downtown LA. And all we did was vintage recreations from actual patterns from, back whenever we needed to, like from like the
1500s.
late 1800s, like actual physical patterns that the owner had, that we had to be careful that she would actually make us put it like on manila paper or anything, and we would work from those original patterns. And right there we actually got to do vintage recreations for museums, and also for different films and TV like segments. We were actually able to do the show Pan Am. We were able to work on that. We were able to work on True Blood. So it was for a lot of films that we were able to do, but everything was like
For
vintage.
HBO, basically, because Pan Am and True Blood was HBO, right?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
That's so cool. So early on, you already had like really like pretty much Hollywood experience.
Yes.
And that was worth. And I think nowadays a lot of people like they kind of want the world. The moment they graduate, it's like I need to have top director jobs, right? But they don't even put in the work.
No.
Because I also had internships too. I think that's where a lot of people don't realize, like, if you want to succeed in especially in the creative industry, you kind of need to be put in the work or like earn some stripes, because the moment they throw you into like let's just say into a corporate job, like it's sink or swim, and most people sink very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's I'm glad that you also had that experience of kind of that's a very valuable like I guess skill that you want to you love what you do so much that you're willing to do it for free so you can learn, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. And after how long were you in that internship for?
3 months actually.
3 months.
Yes, it was a 3-month internship. So.
Very cool. And so did they give you like a after like when you were done, you were just like a recommendation or anything like that?
Yes, it was just a recommendation. So from there, then I was able to actually move on to wherever industry I wanted to, and I actually landed in a fashion job in downtown LA too.
So that was like your first official
job, paid job.
Not where you're at right now.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
How was that like?
Very different. I mean, when you go into fashion school, you want to be into fashion. But when you're also in the manufacturing fashion side, it's very competitive. Because if you actually go to downtown LA and you see all the wholesale businesses, pretty much everybody copies each other. It's not much of inspiration. You have to be actually on top of what's in
the trends.
The trends.
What's making money.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So that's when I realized that wasn't for me. I wasn't into the fashion and following the trends. Because I've always been more into the historical side, like costuming wise. That was always more my passion. But I didn't like the idea of having to always be on top of researching and seeing what's new, seeing what's selling. No, it wasn't my forte.
And what was this new this new job like? What industry?
It was more in the, I would say, kind of like your not your tween. I would say like more contemporary fashion. So it was more of just fashion tops that we were designing.
For women?
For women, correct. Okay. And it was a very small business. And I had to be working with the designer and the pattern maker and the sample maker. So it was just us three in a room just constantly. And the funny thing is that it was a language barrier, but that didn't stop it because we would just do sign language to each other.
Really?
Yes.
What were the other nationalities you were working with?
The pattern maker was Korean. She didn't speak English or Spanish at all. It was just certain words she knew. So either I would just do hand signals to her and she would understand. Then our sample maker only spoke Spanish, didn't speak any Korean or any English. So at least I was able to communicate with him, but it was in a lot of sense that the three of us had to understand each other in a way. It was very funny, but we got along, it didn't matter. But just the whole experience, it was a different experience, but it made me realize that the fashion industry in that part of the fashion industry wasn't what I was actually passionate about.
Right. It's such a testament though, like the fact that like fashion or I'm assuming I've experienced this too, like I'm in a different industry than you, but the moment that passionate people or skilled people come together to create a goal, it doesn't even matter where they come from.
Correct.
The point is, let's get this project out the door. Even if we need to like point out this, write things down, make a little drawing, we'll get this done. And that's, to me, that's I love hearing stories like that because it's like, damn, you didn't, I guess, like it's an unorthodox way of working. But you did it, and then once you start growing your career, like once you start meeting other people who are just as talented as you, you're like, thank you, right? A little bit, you're just like, okay, because you've been through the ringer.
It makes it easier to be able to to work. But yes, it was definitely an experience.
That's awesome. And so, how long were you in that job for?
I would say about a year.
A year?
Yes.
What was it that made you want to like pursue a different career? Because I know you said that the inspiration wasn't there. It was more like, okay, this is what we need, trans. And I'm assuming you found a different job that...
Yes, I was already looking into another job. So I actually had applied to a couple of different places and I had gotten hired at 2 places. And I had to decide which one I wanted to go with, which one of them was designing gowns, which I loved also.
Yeah.
And then the other one was the manufacturing job, which I'm actually in. And just set on the atmosphere and seeing everything, I got sold right away. So I decided to go on that direction and leave the gown job I was offered.
Where you're currently at.
Correct.
And
yes.
Did you start as a director like for your department?
No, I actually started as the assistant designer. When I first started, yes.
Nice.
I started like that, and then I actually would help out the designer, and then I would also help out the pattern maker. So I would do first production patterns. I would get like the rolls of fabric, and I'll start cutting swatches or cutting the samples myself. It was more of a hands-on, starting like that. And then as time went on, I would say within the almost a year that I was there, I got offered the head design position. So then I took it.
Because you were so much better than the previous person.
I possibly was. No, I don't know. I was just very hands-on and more passionate about it. So,
they saw that.
Yeah, they saw that. So then from there, I took on that position, and then I've been there since. Yes.
How many years have you been working in the company you're employed at currently?
It's actually going to be 12 years in February.
12 years.
12 years.
That's awesome. You never looked back.
No.
After that.
No.
And honestly, working with you, I think it was like 2 years that I was there. Like, you're very easy to work with, and the fact that when you get into a career, into an industry, and you find people who don't give a shit about what they do, it makes it so much more difficult. I think you and I, we have a person in mind that was part of the team that always caused issues and problems, and was like always trying to like I guess drop the guilt onto somebody else. The fact that we could like lean on each other when it came to that I guess those projects made it so much like easier for us, and at the same time very like thankful, like, oh my God, at least you know what you're doing, at least you care, and then whatever I need, like, to me, even as a guy, like the fact that you would come and like, hey, I need this right away, even if it came with a please, you were always nice, and you were always like thankful. I never felt like a demand from you that didn't come in from a nice, like in a elegant, nice way of saying, hey, I need this, please, thank you, also no rush, but I do need this, like did you learn that skill of like asking for things with experience, or is that something that you kind of learned along the way?
Well, I would say just growing up, my mom would always actually make us, we always had to ask things politely. We always had to have a good attitude towards somebody if you don't want people to treat you a certain way back. So just growing up, it just became a habit. And the same, I mean, I wouldn't want somebody to yell at me and demand something. If they demand something, I would want somebody to tell me also in a nice way, or at least respectful way, So it just became a habit. And I mean, I'm always grateful for having the people who work around me. So I try to give that same.
That's cool. It seems like you kind of learned that from your mom then. That's kind of like those director skills, like how to ask for things, but in also a nice way, right? In a homey, like family environment. That's really cool. Was the previous, I guess, call it the previous director that was there, was it a female or male?
She was a female. But again, she didn't get along with everybody. So it was more of, there was always tension there. So
constant clash.
Yes.
Got it. Do you ever find it difficult as a female, as a Mexican American, to pursue your career?
I've came across many situations that way, yes. I mean, people will assume right away certain ways just because of your ethnicity that they'll kind of crush you down, or they won't expect that you're going to get to a certain level, So it has, I mean, but all I try to focus is on what I want. I try to ignore everything around myself because I don't need that negative environment to kind of push me down. I know where I want to be at, so I just continue to pursue as much as I can. Somebody tosses me aside, then I just get back up and start all over again.
The art is basically that you grew up with.
Yes.
Because I've seen your sketches. You sketch, you design, you draw. Did you learn that on your own? Did your mom teach you those how to draw?
No, well, since I was younger, I used to draw a lot. Like I had mentioned before, I used to paint a lot. I used to love to draw murals on the wall. So even at home, I still have a lot of the walls that are still painted that my parents would let me paint the walls. They're like, as long as it's nice,
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
So as long as, like, they would tell me, as long as it looks nice, go for it. If you paint ugly, then now I'm going to paint over it. So
They were honest about that.
Yeah, they were, but they would actually let my creative freedom just go. So I used to paint a lot. I used to do a lot of art shows when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a skill that was already there, and I just put it onto the fashion.
Nice. What kind of painting, like what kind of paints did you paint with? Like acrylic?
I did a
oil?
lot of acrylic and watercolor, and then I started on oil. Oil is a little bit more, you have to be a little bit more patient, but I do oil more for portraits.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Do you still like paint on the
I
side?
haven't painted about in a year or so, but I do want to get back into it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know you have your hands full because on top of your corporate career, you have your own like personal projects as well, right?
Yes,
That
yes.
you kind of focus on. I'll let you take on that one. What do you focus more on your private projects? Because you do freelance projects,
Yes,
right?
yes. So on my freelance projects, I actually do more costuming. I do some evening, but I try to focus more on costuming, more like stage wear, performance wear. For a while, I actually focused a lot on recreations of mariachi uniforms, like outfits, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I would take in the concept and then just completely do a twist on it, but still respectful to the mariachi attire. I did the outfits for a band the original members of this band called Metalachi that were around here in LA. They were LA based also. And their theme was metal music, but redone in a mariachi version.
With instruments from mariachi, traditional mariachi.
So a lot of them were actually mariachis, but that were also into metal or classic rock. And they got together and formed a band like that. And each one of them had a theme. So then I would create the theme for most of them that based off of whatever that character was.
Yeah.
So.
And it's so funny because I actually went to go see that band from a previous date before my current relationship. That she wanted to go see them, and I was just like, Metalachi? Like, what is that? Like I know mariachi and I know metal, but I was like, that fusion sounds very weird to me. But regardless, I still went, and I mean, it was a pretty cool blast just kind of seeing two genres mash, unexpected genres mash, and actually sound so good. Like,
yes.
Shout out to Metalachi, because when I saw them, and then just a full circle moment, the fact that I ended up like a year or two later meeting you and realizing that you were the designer behind that. I was like, whoa, what the heck? What a small world. And like, I mean, they were owning the persona. I feel like that's what the power of your skill, like it gives people that confidence to really like be themselves, whatever it is they're portraying on a stage, whether it's on a runway, whether it's on an event. Does that give you gratitude in like the things that you do? Like that's the things that like, this is what I do it for?
Yes, actually when I would see them perform and I would forget even, oh wow, I'm like, I did the outfits, you know? It makes you feel really proud, and it actually inspires you to actually push yourself for more. Yeah. And because of them, they actually opened the doors for me in the mariachi industry. So I started getting other people that were into the mariachi that wanted a complete different outtake on the mariachi outfit. So that's how I started actually making different types of mariachi outfits for different artists because of them. Because some of them either wanted more of a take as a vinyl or pleather, and I went that direction. So I started actually working with different artists that wanted a different take like that. So it was fun. I mean, I still have those clients and I still actually work on mariachi outfits.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then from that, I also was working on Day of the Dead costumes too. That was actually a big thing for me. I used to always create themes depending on what I felt like doing. My first way that I actually created my outfit, it won a Catrina contest. And I had dedicated it to fallen Mexican actors and musicians, just iconic people.
A Catrina, I know this because I'm Mexican as well, but a Catrina is basically like a fancy gown, right, lady, with the big
the big hat,
yes. Right?
Yes.
Like the
That's the original Catrina.
of like, okay. I just wanted to make sure for people because you and I know what Catrinas are, but I like to like explain sometimes Spanish words to people.
Well, yes,
who might be
because just the
listening to
term in
this.
general is just dressing very elegant. Just like how you say a male, a Catherine, he's very dressed, very elegant. It's the same way. But the artist that created that Day of the Dead named her pues, La Catrina, and that's how it became known as a Catrina. And I feel really bad for not knowing the artist, but
The time
at the top
period,
of my head.
the time period for Catrina of that call it that staple in our culture because like you said, that image became almost what is known or really put out in Day of the Dead. That time period, you know more better about time periods in design and fashion. What time, like, what would you say that fashion of La Catrina was? Would say like 1920s?
No, I would say
1800s?
late 1800s.
Late 1800s?
Because hats like that were more and more in the late 1800s.
Right.
Yes. And early 1900s, which was still kind of a Victorian look.
Oh, okay, there you
Yes.
go. That's what I was looking for. Like the Victorian look and even the gentleman with the mustache,
Yes.
with the curls, right?
Yes.
The top hats. So yeah, it's so crazy how like that Victorian influence even made it into our culture, which is so funny, right? Like
Yes.
I just realized this right now, and that's what I love about art, fashion, that it can influence even traditional like cultures. Because to me, I think the mashing of cultures to me is something I personally love. This is why I love living in LA. I personally like there's nowhere else I'd rather be. Just because there's always something new here. Even if like, yes, right now, I guess post-pandemic, there's been a lot of issues going on in our city, but I feel like the heart and culture of art here is like very well alive.
That it is.
Do you feel like, or like, are there any like subgenres, cultures that you like getting influence from for your work?
To be honest, I'm very much into my culture in general. I think that's my what I depict most of my designs because that's what I usually focus on. I do look at other historical moments in life, like I said, like history-wise, because I love history, to try to depict it into my inspiration, but I actually generally go back to my roots. That's where I usually try to focus more on anything. And if, there's something that's going on very, like, I would say like a trend, sometimes I'll hop on it, but I'm more into very traditional. So I'm very old school in that sense, yes.
Yeah. You've also talked about the culture. You've also been on like I think you mentioned it earlier. A Chicano elegance.
Yes.
Right. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So that show, it was actually in February of this year. It was a fashion show it brought up different Latino cultures together. It was 5 different designers, different cultures. Each designer had their own specific style, which made it really interesting as a fashion show because we had one that was more of the Pachuco look. So we had a designer that and she's a personal friend of mine too. She focuses on just the Pachuco fashion, male and female Pachuco fashion. We had another artist too that she was more into the Aztec roots. So all her collection was more Aztec inspired. We had another designer that she focused on the Day of the Dead. So hers was more like traditional, like sarapes styles and all that. And then another designer, it was street fashion, but also with an influence of a Peruvian fashion. And then my stuff was more, I would say, I like to have fun with evening wear. So mine was kind of I would say a mixture of cultural roots and also some fun pieces, but it was all gowns that I did. Gowns, and then I believe 2 sets that were more, like I said, influenced with the whole mariachi stuff that I do. And there was also actually pop-up artists and other designers too that had displays too. So you got a sense of our whole culture, like different, like Hispanic culture, different aesthetics, hat makers that were there too, but all over from LA, which was beautiful. So it was like we don't have that many events that bring our culture together. like in Fashion Week. So it was during Fashion Week.
Oh, okay.
So it was nice. So now, because of that, it became a hit, and they're actually going to start doing them every year. But I believe upcoming year it's going to be in June.
And you were the first.
Yes.
First year?
Yes, we were the first year. I was a part of the first year, and it was actually a really nice event. And it was actually here in LA too. I don't remember. I think it was like LA River Garden. It's a very beautiful venue. It looks like it would be a mission. So the runway was in the middle, and there was water fountain. So it looks just like a mission.
Where was this at, or what like city? Because when you say LA, I mean LA.
No, it's called LA River Garden.
Oh, right here, like LA River Garden.
Yes.
And what's?
I think that's what it's called.
Was it here, like by like the Dodger Stadium?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it was held right there.
By the River Walk.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That to me, like, I remember seeing your stories, and I was like, oh, look at her, good for her. Like the fact that you're getting your work. And did you walk the runway?
At the end, yes, I did. Yes, after all my girls walked, I was able to walk with them at the end, and just be happy that I was able to finish, because it was stressful months having to construct everything, because I did everything myself.
That was my next question. Mm-hmm. Like, how long did it take you to get all that work for that moment? Like, I did 8 months, you said?
No, I did everything in 3 months, and while I was working full time.
3 months?
Yes.
So every night you were just kind of like
I was sewing away, lack of sleep every day, and I was able to finish 10 outfits. Yes.
10 outfits for one show. Mm-hmm. Jeez, that's a lot.
Yeah, it was.
So how long? So three months. How many days? That's like 90 days divided. So every 9 days you were pumping out a new kind of.
Pretty much, yeah. As soon as I got home from work, I would start working on the outfits up until I was able to, stay awake. Once I got sleepy, then I had to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was other days that, when it got closer, that I wasn't sleeping to try to finish everything.
And I think I do recall like seeing some of your stories, kind of like you at night, just like this with your at your desk with all your stuff. Like, I need sleep, like set help or set coffee or something like that. Do you work? To me, like working under pressure. Do you like it?
I do. I'm actually one of those terrible people that I prefer working under pressure. I won't say start working ahead of time to work on something. I feel like I get more inspiration when I'm in a rush. And I know it's bad for certain things, but I love working like that, pressuring myself.
I think, honestly, I'm kind of the same way too, where there's something about when you take too much time, almost like you feel like you start second doubting yourself. You kind of start like, well, I could do this, I could do that. And then you start having all these ideas and you just don't know where to start, right?
Yeah.
Where sometimes under like a pressure, you're like, boom, here. And you start you start going with your intuition. And that intuition sometimes is like that raw artist of you kind of coming out, because it's forced.
Yes, exactly.
It's forced to come out.
So
the working under pressure, do you think at like your corporate, there's your personal clients and then work. Do you feel like your corporate career job is like very high paced?
It can be at times, but I think since usually everything has its time, it's more of a normal pace. We'll have certain, I would say, projects that you really have to rush, and you have a certain amount of time and you have to figure out how you're going to make it happen. But other than that, I think at home, it's where I get the most pressure. Like they say, we're our worst, critic. Sorry. And it's just that way. I work more at home than I work during my day job.
In what sense?
In the sense that I put more, like all my whole energy, as in the sense of I overwork myself. I'll just put, like I said, my whole brain is completely tuned into my projects in that sense. I stress out even more, but it's more of, I guess, what I love to do.
Because it's a reflection of you, right?
Correct, yes.
Whereas a corporate job, sometimes It's you're kind of given instructions of what the client wants,
Yes.
right?
It's not your vision in that sense. You're just helping their vision come to life, as opposed to when you work on your vision and it's your baby, you want everything to be perfect. So you do stress out that you want it to come out perfect, or you want people to understand in reality what exactly is your vision.
I think a lot of artists struggle with that because there's a lot of talented people that I know sometimes who are not successful in a career in a corporate environment. Because I think corporate environments, you need to separate the artist from the I would say probably worker,
Yes,
the
I know
money.
what you mean. Yes.
Because if you try to be like my vision here at work with this client, but the client doesn't want that, and so you kind of have to learn how to like, okay, they're not attacking my abilities, they're just have a specific vision, and ultimately they have the money, they pay for it, so therefore the customer's always right.
Yes.
Did you ever work customer service, like any experience before that?
I think when I first started, it was tough for me, just like you're saying. Having to design something for somebody when you put your idea completely, and having to understand that, again, it's not that they don't like or respect your idea, it's more that you have to wrap around. Like they say, sometimes it can be your idea, but you wrap it around in their vision, it'll work. But having that mindset where you do have to understand that it's not about you, you have to work for what the customer's vision is.
Yeah.
And it was tough at first. Now it's like you understand and you're like, okay, you know what, let me put myself in their shoes, as opposed to, nope, this is the direction it should go, and it does make it tough. But as you go on, it's just, again, working on their vision and not letting your ego surpass that.
Right. I think, and obviously you're a testament to your own success because you were able to even continuously be that director right now in a fashion company. Is there anything else that you wish you could tell yourself when you were younger? Like, hey, you probably should think this way if you want to succeed, other than what we just mentioned right now?
Yes. Again, coming into the ego, because when you get out of fashion school, how we were saying, you think that you're going to go from 0 to 100, and you have that mentality coming straight out of school.
Yeah.
And it's not like that. You have to really learn that you have to start from the bottom. And when I started, it was that way. I would get mad a lot because I wanted to push what I learned in school, and it's not like that. Especially when you come into a company that's been there for a long time, you have to adapt in the way they're already working.
They work.
Yes, not the way you want to work. You're not going to come in and implement new rules when they already have their set rules. And being young, that was hard for me because I started there at that job when I was 23.
So basically be more coachable.
Yes, being open to actually learning from, and learning from others instead of you being stubborn. I would say that because, when you, like I said, when you're young, you don't want to hear other people's opinions. And it's good to actually hear people out, especially if they've been working there for a long time. You learn to actually, learn the way they actually work.
Yeah.
And it helps out. It does. It definitely does.
And if you see results on the way they even work, because
you learn.
I've even come across, and this is something that I told you recently when we were outside, that sometimes in a career environment you will find that some positions are given to people who have absolute no knowledge in your skill, but yet because they're friends with somebody, they get the position, and now they're basically kind of criticizing you, and you kind of have to be hyper aware and have that intuition like, wait, you've never done what I do. Like, you're not even able to replicate what I'm doing if it wasn't for me. And that's when you kind of realize, like, I need to get out of here because there's no growth here.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the kind of what you said, piggybacking off that to me. Like, I always tell people, like, always be coachable, but be aware who's coaching you.
Yeah.
Because there's some dummies out there, like, not trying to be mean, but age does not translate into wisdom.
No.
And
you're right.
And I wish somebody told me that earlier, because there was many times that I felt like I was kind of like, just blindly following people because that's kind of what we were raised you respect your elders, and you do as you're told by your elders. And sometimes in the corporate world, it's not like that. Sometimes it's just people who are very greedy with like because of money.
Yes.
And they've like, I'm this position. I am.
Or the fear of you taking over their position too.
Exactly. I think that's mainly it. That they're so like they probably go to sleep like thinking like, oh, this person's so much more talented than I am. Yet I am the director, so I need to act like the director.
Yes.
But I'm glad that your wisdom, like really, like everything you've said, like really does like add up to why you're in the position you're in. I was gonna ask another question, like, how has it been balancing your like romantic, platonic relationships with your career, if you don't mind me asking, of course, because I think these are real things that people like us sometimes don't really realize. Like, hey, this is difficult. Like sometimes it can be difficult having a partner and a career at the same time. So how did you balance out your relationships, whether it's platonic and relationship? I mean, or romantic.
As far as romantic, I would say it was very challenging because you do have to find time to give the person attention as well as work-wise. There was many times that we would disagree in that sense because I would overwork. And I didn't have enough time, to pay attention, which is understandable. At times, it worked out perfectly because he would hop on and he would actually start helping me with the gowns. Do you need me to sew on trims? Do you need me to get on here? So it was either he kind of adapt to either I jump and help her or I step back. So most of the time he would jump and actually help me to try to actually be able to get things going because he would see that I would get stressed out or wasn't. But it's very tough because again, we all want to get there and you could only get there if you actually have a partner who's backing you up and has that same mindset to actually move up. Because if you don't, then again, I mean, things don't end up working well.
Right. What about your like just platonic relationships, like your family, your friends?
Well, just family-wise, my whole family is very supportive. So I always make time for family. Say, maybe I'll have a day out of the week where I say, I'm not going to work. I'm only going to focus on family. I do have mom duties, so I do have to space that out also. Go to work, go do mom duties and then actually work. So usually that's why I work so late because I take time to actually do my work after I'm done with all the duties that I have to do. Yes, there's certain times that I actually get straight to work, and my son knows too that I'm very busy in that sense. So certain days, he's the one that actually will help me. Hey, do you need help on this? Or he just knows it's a day that I'm going to actually be working and focusing my work. But I mean, just in general, going out, I do set time to go out, but I think I work a lot more than going out.
Yeah, yeah. And is there a reason why, like, it's because the people because I'll be honest, I feel like even nowadays dating has become very difficult because of the apps, because it's like shiny toy here, shiny toy over there. So it's like people are very easily distracted. Like, what are qualities that I feel like nowadays that you feel are the most attractive that don't jeopardize yourself and your career?
Well, to be honest, I mean, it is difficult because I haven't been on the dating scene or anything because I've tried to step back because you're right. I hear stories from different friends as a sense of, I went out with this person on this app and this happened. So it kind of made me realize like, you know what? I'm going to go the old school way, back away. If time comes, I'm going to eventually meet somebody. But it is scary because you start to think all the aspects of what if I jump into something and this person's against everything that I do, or it doesn't support my career, or just a fiasco in the way I think. So yes, it is difficult. And I think right now I'm just taking a break to focus on myself, and try to actually take advantage of going out a little bit more and actually enjoy myself, because it's been a long time that I actually didn't put myself first, I would say.
When you do things that are not work related, does it complement, does it go along the lines of like fashion, or is it completely like 180, like nothing to do with fashion, but I like it because it helps me not think about it?
It
About work.
actually, I would say that I do fashion things here and there, but it's more of something completely different. It can be just me being around animals, like in the sense of horses, more like a ranch type of environment.
Oh, because you
Or-
have animals, right?
Yes, yes. So that will actually help me relax. It's just being away from everything. If I can go to the woods and just be there, that's me. I try to step away from everything just to kind of get my mind back in place where I want it to be, or just go to a park or go to a meditation session, or just, just relax, that type of stuff. I don't go too crazy going out or anything, no. I usually just tend to keep calm and be more off to myself.
Because like any job, things can be stressful,
Yes.
right? And so that's what really helps you balance yourself out. Do you often feel like you just need like a day, you need like a whole month, a week off to like get back to it?
Usually with a day, I'll be good enough. I don't think I've taken a week off in a long time. So usually a day would help me kind of reset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because to me, I think it's like, it's important. I always tell people like, if you feel a little burnt out, like just don't even think about work. And sometimes I think a lot of people who are passionate, some people take the approach is like, no, I can't, I gotta stay to work. And some people are like, yeah, I'll just check out. When it comes to like friends, because some friends know that you have this certain skill. Has there been any time where you kind of have to tell friends like, hey, I can't, or like no, like a boundary?
Yes, it's happened actually a lot, that sometimes I need a break, but then some of them will keep pursuing, like, hey, can you make me this? Can you do this for me or whatever? And many other times I will, but I think as of late, I've put myself into the position like, no, I need to put myself first. No means no, because I would always say yes to everything. Yes.
Do you think that affected you negatively?
Yes, I think so. So now I actually say no, and I know when I'm able to and when I'm not. And because, when you're burnt out, like you're saying. And before, even if I was burnt out, I would still continue to work. And it does take a toll on you in health-wise. And then I did have a health scare too, because of overworking. So that's what kind of forced me to take a step back.
If you don't mind me asking, even if it's not too personal, what kind of scare was it?
I think from taking on so much work, I actually suffered a mild stroke.
What?
Yes, back in October.
Of this year?
Last year.
Oh, last year.
Yes, last year. Because besides my job and then the fashion show that I was working on, I was also doing a time capsule for Shein too. So I did a collection for Shein also. So I was doing,
Shein.
yes. So I did all those three within a time period, having to do everything. And I think just from all the stress and then lack of sleep, I ended up getting a mild stroke. First, I didn't notice up until my sister one day in the morning came and she's like, hey, what's wrong with your face? What do you mean? And I looked at myself in the mirror and half of my face was already like drooping. So I went to the doctor, and because I did get like a feeling like my chest was hurting, but I was like, okay, it's probably anxiety. I ignored it up until I noticed my face, and I went to the doctor, and then it was because of that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So after that, I said, nope, once all this is over, I need to actually start focusing on myself and pace myself and not take in more because I didn't know how to say no, or because I thought this opportunity is not going to come around, so I'm going to take on to it. And so now I'm like, I take things a little bit slower, and I actually am more careful in taking care of things.
Nice. Yeah, that's very important. See, I didn't even know about that. Like, Ian, are those things you kind of keep more personal to yourself, or is that something like you would go and be like, hey guys, put it on? Because you didn't definitely. Did you share that on social media?
No, definitely no. I'm more of a private person when it comes to my personal life. So no, I don't, unless it's something with design or anything, then I'll post up. Other than that, then no, I don't. I usually keep everything to myself. So I mean, not too many people knew. Obviously, the people who did see my face, they saw that when I smiled, I looked sad because I would, my face would droop from one side. And it did. It lasted, I mean, a couple of months till I got adjusted.
And I appreciate the honesty and the vulnerability of like allowing me to ask that question, because I think even as professionals, we kind of need to help each other out and like not. I feel like in a work environment, sometimes people can be a little brutal if you share things like that. They'll just be like, oh, suck it up, or like,
yeah, brush it off.
or you're just being extra, like things like that. But it is nice to know that that you're able to kind of just sit back a little bit and just be like, okay, let me prioritize me, because the artist is a big part of me. But then there's this body that I live in that I need to kind of make time for.
Yes.
And so I'm sure like there's so many like professionals out there that sometimes even like, and this is what I feel like social media kind of, or like even media kind of needs to like bring a human element to everything they're saying or doing, because sometimes I feel like reality TV shows, they just show like this perfect glam world, and it's like
Yes.
like even like if you've seen any fashion, are there any fashion shows that you like on TV?
I used to watch Making the Cut, like that. It was like kind of like a spin-off of Project Runway.
On what channel, or like what?
No, actually just on Netflix. I
That's
would
on
watch
Netflix?
it, yes.
Oh, never heard of it.
Yeah. So I used to watch that a lot, and it was kind of the same thing of having to rush and everything. But right there, I would say in the fashion part, they do make it a little more dramatic in the sense of getting hurt or having a nervous breakdown. That's more like, okay, I get that because that's happened, But other than that, no, I haven't watched it, but I know what you mean, that everything is too perfect. They don't have that much issues, and the issues that they do have,
they blow it out of proportion.
Yes.
Yeah, it almost like they make it comical. Yeah. Well, that's cool, because like you as a professional, like knowing like the background behind the scenes, you kind of you're able to point out like that's not real, that's not real, that's not real. But overall, it's still entertainment, right?
Yes, of course, you still watch it.
That's hilarious. Well, I think that's pretty much like a lot of the questions that I have from your part. I think it's you brought a lot of realistic side, like stories of fashion into here, like into our podcast, because this podcast to me is like, again, it's something that I feel very passionate, like bringing people on. That again, I'm not a fashion designer, but I did see a lot of the passion that you kind of brought. Like you made it very easy to work with in a very like corporate environment. You also forgot to point in, like you're also very good with like graphic design.
Yes.
Because you said that you drew and paint, which is something that you grew up with, and then of course with your mom, she helped you a lot with like actual getting they call it the basics of fashion design, right? When did you pick up graphic design?
I actually picked up graphic design at the day job that I have, because sometimes when we had customers and we didn't have enough time, I kind of started learning to do graphics from there to be able to respond to the customer quickly. So as time went by, I started taking different courses or just learning on my own to actually adapt that into my skills too.
Yeah. And you say you picked that up on your own, like just like courses online, like so like did you pay for courses, or did you just?
No, just from learning. I mean, basic learning that I would take like little like YouTube lessons. If I wanted to do something, I would just search it up, and then I would go ahead and learn from there. Just basic things. And then as time went on, I started learning more stuff. And now thanks to AI, I mean, they make it even easier for anybody to be a graphic designer.
Yeah. I think you picking up all those three tools, are there anything like other like talents that you think like have contributed to your success for your career?
For my career? Well, for one, again, just the drawing. Now I do sketch now more on my tablet as opposed to sketching on paper. So learning Photoshop and all that has helped me actually enhance my skills on sketching. So now I don't have to take time on trying to make the fabric look real. I can actually just do tools now and adapt it to make it look like the fabric. So thanks to like Photoshop, Procreate, it makes things much more easier to be able to adapt to that.
Because previously, that's a great point that you just brought up. Previously, it would take you longer to make like a fabric look like something, where now you can just kind of
you had to layer
flip an
everything.
image.
Now it's like they have special brushes that it's like lace. It already has perfect lace that you can create. Before it's like I actually had to have like I'll get like a piece of lace and either brush off, like I'll use either paint or eyeshadow sometimes, even when I would create sketches by hand. So now it's like it makes it very easy. I mean, I still try to draw to keep the skills still up to date, you know. But other than that, yeah, no, it's helped out a lot learning Photoshop, Illustrator, and like Procreate.
So be open to change.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yes. It took me a while to adapt because I said, nope, I'm still going to stick to drawing, you know, drawing by hand. But then when it came to coming up with a quick sketch, I'm like, no, it's the tablet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed you have your tablet
Yeah,
with
I
you
do.
right there on your purse. That's hilarious.
I
And you
do.
have your
Yes,
your
because now
iPad
it's like
pen.
you can take a picture of something, bring it to your sketch, and then work from there.
Do you often get inspiration like sometimes on the fly where you're just like, oh, I gotta take a picture of this? Like,
Yes, I do. So I think I have more pictures of things or screenshots of other stuff inspire, like to give me inspiration, than pictures of family. So if I look at screenshots, I'm like, oh wow, look, I'm like all the screenshots that I have, it'll be like 10,000. I'm like,
your feed is
yes, it's
mixed,
mainly because sometimes you'll get ideas out of nowhere, or that's why I always carry like a sketch pad, because then I'll see something, I'm like, oh wow, that would be a good idea for this, or I'll write words down and then I'll go home and then I'll sketch something out.
Very cool, very cool. Have you find and like kind of piggybacking on that, are there any like specific iPad or like what's it called, Windows platforms that you think are superior than one another?
Well, personally, I think I've used Windows, but I'm more of for tablet wise, I use my iPad for everything. But at home, I do have a PC.
Yeah.
So I work from a PC. I also have a Mac, but I work more on the PC when I'm on my desk. But when I'm on the go, it's always my iPad. It's always because I have Photoshop and Illustrator on there and Procreate.
Yeah.
So it's my go-to. Sometimes I even forget I have it, you know, and I'll still be sketching on a piece of paper. I'm like, wait a minute, I have the tablet. So then I'll start right there. But that's my go-to.
Yeah.
I think ever since they came out with that, with the iPen, it's...
Would you say like that you're very good at picking up a new skill, like that doesn't require too much like reading, or like are you like what I'm trying to say is are you like a visual learner?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Were you good like when it comes to like, you know, traditional high school? Were you like a 4.0 student?
I wouldn't say 4.0. I would say more in the threes, but not 4.0.
Oh, trust me, I wasn't either. I was like I ended up I think at 3.6, 3.7, 3.8. Somewhere I would always just kind of balance.
Yeah,
balance
that's
between
how I
those.
was.
I just could never get an A, like 4.0, like A's all the time.
I think it depending on the subject. Like I said, if it was history or art, it was always really good.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to English or math, it was kind of a let me just write it through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever like experience like a very difficult time with your career, like a shift change that you, I don't know, that you've seen or heard from other people, like, hey, this is really screwing our industry? Is there anything like that you like overall heard anything?
Well, it depends, I think, in the industry, of what industry you're involved in.
Uh-huh.
Because what's taken an impact, again, it's online, like companies that have been taking a toll, and that's more on the fashion side. Because different fashion websites, it's overseas, as opposed to here that there was more fashion jobs in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, there is more fashion jobs that you can do, like I did a time capsule. But it's not, you don't see jobs that people are in long-term fashion jobs here as much anymore. So it has changed, because now they take in different designers, which is understandable for fashion. They want to take everybody's different styles.
Yeah.
So that has affected people's full-time jobs as a staple, like designer.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Like
So, I mean, there's somebody new and young, they're going to want to see their fashion as time goes by. You know, we're going to switch it up. Okay, following year, we need X amount of new designers. So all the companies are being like that now.
Oh, where they they'll give you the experience, but they won't make you like a full-time
No.
onboard employee.
Yes, They want those new, fresh ideas.
They kind of want freelancers to work with. Yeah,
Yes.
I could see how that they could really be affected, especially how things quickly move. And school me, because I know what a time capsule is, the traditional time capsule is, but what is a time capsule for a fashion company? I have no idea what that is.
It's called a time capsule because they give you a collection for a certain season, but it's only for that season, again, like we're saying. So you only design for that season and your own collection. And they'll get somebody else for the next season. So it's always like a different set of designers, just like I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
So they'll create their collection, and it's like your time capsule because you only had it for that time, and then they bring out new people. So it was a fun, I would say a fun experience to actually learn how to do that, because you really do start designing. You actually have to talk to the pattern makers overseas to see if they're doing your designs. They'll send you a photo. Do you approve this or not? So it was a good experience, but that's the way it works, just like that.
Got it. And Sheen, did you ever post about that?
I did. I actually posted when it came out. So you do get a percentage from designing, which is nice, and it's fun. It's a good experience, and to also actually add to your resume as well. But yeah, that's the way it works, and I think that's how a lot of fashion companies are starting to work, and that's how they make it big. Because I mean, everybody has a different idea. That they're not going to want, say, me as a designer to keep doing my vision every single time. It's not going to hit everybody's, their diverse style. So they're always changing designers all the time. So that's why you have a broad website full of different designs for the same reason, because it's multiple designers.
Yeah, I feel like e-commerce has, especially the big jumbo companies in fashion, have really opened up to like a wide cast. They just cast a wide net.
Yeah.
That sometimes, like, I'm glad it speaks to everybody, but do you like that, or sometimes do you like very specific like companies where they just focus on a certain like niche?
Yes, I'm more of just focusing on a niche because I'm not so far into wearing the latest fashion, not as much like that. So I usually stick to companies who have their set style. Mm-hmm. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do buy from the websites too, but being at this age now and I see that clothes keep getting tinier and tinier, I'm like, I'm not for that anymore. So I stick to certain companies because I'm like, I'm not going to wear a crop top right now. But yeah, I'll stick to other companies that do have a style that, that I'm more into, or they already have their fashion already that I'm into.
It is what it is.
Yes.
And that's how they like it.
Besides, if I don't make myself my own clothes.
Nice. Do you often visit, obviously I'm assuming you visit the fashion district often?
Yes, I used to go every single weekend. Now, I mean, I'll go once a week, but I try to limit myself because I'll get to the point that I'll start buying things for my project. I'm like, okay, I'll have a list. That's why I try to make a list, because before I would go and I would see stuff that I liked and then I would buy it and then I would buy it. So then I started accumulating so much fabric, so much trims, and without making a project. Right. So then you end up becoming a hoarder. So now I just limit myself to once a month. I'll make my list and I'll push myself to only buy what I have on the list. So I won't go out splurging on items I don't need.
And what happens with, like, let's say fabric that you purchased and it just sits there for a while? What do you do with it? Do you just let it sit there? Oh
yeah, I have shelves and I look at them like, I'm going to come back to you. I already know what I'm going to make. And I do have in mind what I'm going to make. A lot of them I already have sketches for it. I just have to sit there, make time, and actually complete it. Yeah.
I think whenever I want a project, I leave something of a reminder, like just put it in a place where it's not supposed to be, so it can bug me. And then I'll get around to it.
That's actually a good idea. I'm going to have to try that.
And so, inspiration-wise, I know, like, sometimes I feel like a weirdo because I feel like my inspiration sometimes comes more when it's like at night, when things, like, I'm not a morning person. I think I want to say that you're not a morning person either, based on, remember how we used to work together and like we would just come out like, what's up in the morning, and then
like zombies.
Okay, within the first 2 hours.
I have to work at night only, and people find it weird. I mean, because again, like you're saying, there's morning people, but even when it comes to painting, sometimes I'll start painting like at midnight, and that's usually when I'll get my inspiration. Or sewing wise, I'll start around like 10 o'clock to 1 or 2 in the morning, and I'm like, okay. But that's when I work the best.
Yeah.
If I work earlier, no, I start stressing out. So I just wait when everything is calm, I would say.
And then you show up to work the next day.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap things up? Because I feel like we've dug very deep
I think
into
so too.
into your career and like the fact that being in you're a native Angeleno, right? Like
Yes, I am.
You're born and raised in LA. Do you have anything to say like for other people like in the next generation that like want to get into fashion, or people who are from different parts of the world who are probably listening to this, or like
I think in general
states?
for fashion, you really just need to be patient. If you're really passionate about it, all you need to do is have patience, because it'll take you far if you're actually patient. If you give up right away, I mean, it doesn't work that way. That industry, it's a tough industry to break into.
Yeah.
So you really have to just take your time with it and be open to actually working for free for quite a bit of time.
Yeah. You're very soft-spoken, but you're very tough. Because I've seen you in very high-stress situations where I was like, wow, the way they came at her, I was like, and you kind of just like let it fly off your shoulder.
Yes.
I want to give you kudos for that, because I don't think I ever told you that before, that you're very tough and especially when it could be a lot of like a male environment, right? I feel like you also like don't let a lot of things affect you when it comes to like even like certain comments, because I feel like I get more affected when it's like when people come at me, like I'm like, you're being a dick. What's going on here? Like, why are you attacking me? And I feel like you're actually very tough on that. Did you learn that like just over the years, kind of like just?
Yes, I did actually. I just try not to let things get to me or stress out, because I've noticed that there's no purpose in stressing out, because it's not going to help me in any way if I do get stressed out.
Yeah.
So I just learned to manage to just take it in, breathe, and just go ahead and work through things.
Very cool.
Plus I have a kid, so I have a teenager, so you learn even more through that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Last question. Do you feel like inspiration wise, like when it comes to like just do it kind of mentality, is there something else like a higher power that you feel like sometimes you rely on, or something that, whether it be like an object, whether it be an idea, that you kind of feel like it's also helped you in your career?
As far as in how?
Could be religion, could be like, I don't know, a very specific, call it activity or anything?
I do. I pray a lot. I pray, and I'm always grateful for everything I have. So the God I always think first, yes. I also do meditation a lot, which has helped me. So I'll do a lot of binaural beats, or any like I'll listen to frequencies, which will actually help me be able to get into that mental state and relaxed. So I do that a lot.
What was the thing, the beats thing?
Binaural beats, which is
that?
like brain, like wave sounds that'll help your brain.
Oh, yeah. I've never even heard of that.
Yes. So I'll listen to that. I'll put my headphones and I'll work, and to try to actually get into more of a calm state.
I feel like that's a little bit of mixture of like traditional and kind of new age, kind of like
Yes.
of things to balance yourself out. So that's really cool, because I think sometimes people just stick to one thing, and you kind of take a little bit of here, a little inspiration here.
Yes. Here. So I try to focus, like, again, to try to take care of myself more mentally and then physically in that sense.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I genuinely appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be here and, sharing stories from Los Angeles. Thanks for watching. Follow and subscribe for more. Keep in touch with me on stories.fromla on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you.